Good evening. A man is dead and police are now searching for a suspect after a stabbing near Danforth and Coxwell last night.
Police say it started with an altercation behind a plaza and ended with a man being rushed to hospital with stab wounds. CTV's Janice Golding is live near the scene tonight with the latest. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, Toronto police are searching for a suspect after an altercation in an alley behind us here turned deadly last night. The evidence markers first pop up in an alley and then make their way toward a Shoppers Drug Mart, snaking across the pharmacy's parking lot toward Danforth Avenue. This is where first responders would find a man who was stabbed last night.
The lights were flashing on either end of the street, and so then I looked outside and it seemed like there were just policemen milling about.
Police say they got the call around 11 p.m. after an altercation between two men in the Danforth and Coxwell area led to a stabbing.
I'm kind of distressed. It's quite shocking. I'm not used to the violence.
That's very scary to think that you're walking around and anything can happen to you.
It just seems to be every day something, and it's sad because it never used to be like this.
There is a separate crime scene on the street just north of Danforth where police have cordoned off a number of homes. Residents tell CTV News officers informed them that a man had jumped the fence separating the parking lot from their backyards and fled the scene on foot.
I was sitting on my porch, just on that side, and I saw this guy in a white t-shirt. I think he put down a couple things and just walked out of the driveway like it was his own house.
Miles says he thought the man who left a hoodie behind was just a friend of his neighbor's.
Cops showed up, like heavily armed cops.
Late this afternoon, investigators released the image of a suspect seen here wearing a dark hoodie, a face mask, and dark pants.
You hear sirens all the time on the Danforth, so you think nothing of it, and to find out that it's right in your backyard, it's kind of scary.
It's terrible. Honestly, it's way too close to home.
Police also released this image of the victim who was transported to hospital but would die of his injuries. He's been identified as 36-year-old Ashkan Purnasir Rudbain.
It's really sad. Those poor people who have their family must be really sad.
This is Toronto's 16th homicide of the year. And police have released a description of the suspect in addition to the photo saying that they believe he's about 5'5" tall with a thin build. Anyone with information or who may have surveillance video in the area is asked to contact Toronto police as soon as possible. Reporting live from Janice Golding. Now back to Michelle.
Thank you, Janice. Still ahead, 20 people arrested, more than 100 charges laid in a multi-jurisdiction crackdown on criminal activity in the towing industry. CTV's Allison Hurst will be live with the details in moments. But first, a man has been arrested after a daylight shooting in East Gwillimbury this morning.
The CTV's Mike Walker reports neighbors say it's not the first time police have been called to the home where the shooting occurred.
Alexis riddled with bullet holes after an East Gwillimbury man was shot outside his home this morning.
I heard about 3 shots. I thought it was normally a nail gun or something, but all of a sudden I heard some screaming as well.
The brazen shooting happened just after 8:30 this morning on Ballston Hollow, near Leslie and Queensville Side Road. Police confirmed the victim was targeted and was with one of his children when he was shot.
The fact that the shooter would be coming out here and confronting the victim, shooting at them while their child is outside, is incredibly concerning.
Neighbors immediately rushed to the victim's aid. They say he was shot in the leg.
He was sitting on the floor by the side of his car. His car had like 2 bullet holes. He was bleeding profusely.
The victim was rushed to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Police say his child was not injured. The suspect sped away in a Honda Civic captured on multiple home security cameras. About an hour after the shooting happened, officers with the help of the air support unit were able to track down and arrest the suspect more than 50 kilometers away in the area of Sentinel and Finch in North York.
We were very quickly then able to locate the suspect, and when a safe opportunity presented itself, he was taken into custody. The firearm was recovered at the time of the arrest.
18-year-old Faisal Mohammed of Toronto has been charged with attempted murder and several weapon offenses. Police say he was out on probation and was prohibited from possessing firearms.
We don't know exactly what we're looking at in terms of motive right now, and that is something that our investigators are going to be looking into.
Police were called to this home for a break-in last month.
I knew that his house was attacked a couple of weeks ago, which everybody thought was more like related to car theft.
2 guys tried to break in. Yeah, we don't know like who they were or why.
At this point, investigators are not connecting the two incidents. Mike Walker, CTV News.
All right, time now for a check on the forecast. Here's a live shot of the city. We had some showers earlier today. There's still a risk of thunderstorms tonight. Then after that, we're in for a stretch of heat as we get close to the official beginning of summer. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. Lindsay.
Well, Nathan, we've had a few rounds of storms already today, and the fact that we had some thunderstorms earlier in the day has actually taken some of the punch out of tonight's storms. Here's a look at the current satellite and radar. These are starting to weaken as they make their way across the GTA. Many areas starting to see wet weather taper off, which is great news for your evening. Rainfall warnings are starting to come to an end. There is a severe thunderstorm watch for the extreme southwest, where an additional round of severe thunderstorms is possible into this evening. It feels like 35 right now in Windsor. It is a little bit cooler around the lakeshore communities of the GTA. We'll see some improvements for this evening, but the risk of thunderstorms late evening and into the overnight. We'll take you through the forecast coming up. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. 20 people are facing more than 100 charges tonight after a multi-jurisdictional police crackdown on a criminal network known as the Union.
Police say that network was well connected with the GTA's tow truck industry. CTV's Allison Hurst has been following this story. She joins us live with the latest. Allison.
Police say these suspects were the ones calling the shots. And they also released some surveillance footage today of what they say was crimes in action on behalf of this organized crime group. There was one video from Whitby and another one from this area of Toronto's East End. Police allege this suspect is a member of an organized crime group called the Union.
A form of intimidation directed at a victim who is part of the tow truck industry.
In Toronto's East End near Broadview and Queen Street East back on March 15th, the suspect throws what officers say is a Molotov cocktail at something just off screen.
The group was believed to be responsible for numerous acts of violence intended to gain control over the towing industry.
In another video, suspects also allegedly working for the Union appeared to be lighting vehicles on fire at what investigators say is a rival towing yard in Whitby on February 17th.
Numerous people are now facing charges related to directing and participating in the activities of a criminal organization, along with multiple conspiracies to commit murder.
Toronto police announced the arrest of 20 suspects, leading to 111 charges, including dozens for conspiracy to commit murder. 2 guns and 4 vehicles seized, including armored plated vehicles.
We are at the upper echelon. We are with the group that was organizing and hiring the acts of violence. And it's quite telling that none of them have criminal records or are before the courts, because they are the higher level.
Police say many of them operated tow trucks in the city for a long time. In corporate documents obtained by CTV News, one of the suspects, Joseph Jensikumar from Oshawa, is listed as the director of Joshua Roadside as of March 13th of this year. The Social Bar and Lounge, Mansion Kitchen and Bar, both in Pickering, and Pundi Bakery in Scarborough are all listed in court documents obtained by CTV News as the target for conspiracy to commit murder charges. The date of the alleged plot, court documents list as between March 7th or 8th, the day after gunmen fired rounds at the Piper Arms pub in Scarborough.
Acts of violence on a mass scale were deterred and prevented.
The joint investigation with York Region, Durham, the OPP, and Toronto Police, dubbed Project Yankee, began in October 2024 and led to wiretaps targeting individuals associated with the Union and its members.
What they've done essentially is cut the head off that snake.
Police say this will make a difference, but did not say how many other organized crime groups could potentially be at work in the GTA.
They're either going to go underground and hide because they think they're next, or as we've often seen with drug gangs that have been taken down before, that they will try and move in and backfill this void that is now out there.
Police say as of now, all 20 suspects remain in custody. The project came to an end a week ago on the 11th with the execution of 14 search warrants. Police say 15% of the city's shootings and firearm discharges are linked to the towing industry. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Allison. A 21-year-old is facing a number of charges after an incident yesterday where an alleged carjacker fell from the Gardiner. Toronto police say 21-year-old Javed Hussain is facing 10 counts, including charges of robbery and theft. It all stems from 2 incidents earlier on Monday evening when police say 3 men tried to steal 2 vehicles from their drivers. In one case, they were successful. Police executed a high-risk takedown on the gardener just after 11 Monday night. During the takedown, a man went over the edge of the expressway and fell to the lakeshore below. He suffered serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Police say 3 suspects remain outstanding. The province's Special Investigations Unit is now probing the interaction between police and the man who fell from the gardener.
A sentence was handed down today for the Toronto police officer found guilty of assaulting a 19-year-old Brampton man who later died.
The officer will not see any jail time. The family of the victim, Chad Facey, spoke out after the sentence was delivered. CTV's John Musselman reports.
Chad Facey's distraught and grieving family members walked out of the Brampton courthouse today saying the justice system has failed them.
It's very hard. I don't think it's fair because I lost my child. And for him to get 12-month probation, that's not enough, not even 1 day in jail.
The man they are referring to is Toronto Police Constable Calvin Au. He was convicted of assaulting 19-year-old Chad Facey back in 2021 at a Brampton park. It happened after Facey sold a fake Apple Watch to Au's police officer friend. Au and the other officer were both off duty at the time. Court heard Au then chased Facey, took him to the ground, and got the money back. Later that night, Facey died in hospital as a result of an intracerebral hemorrhage, also known as a brain bleed. The judge in the case says she was unable to say for certain that the assault contributed to Facey's death.
He had an interaction with an officer. People saw him over top of him. And hours later, he's dead. To tell that story to anyone, and what can you conclude? This assault happened and my brother is dead.
Au now has a criminal record for assault. He will not serve jail time. Instead, he gets probation and has been ordered to take anger management counseling. The judge also issued a 3-year weapons prohibition against him, which may affect his future as a police officer. Quote, I am very concerned. Au went directly to force. His judgment was extremely poor. Au was trained in de-escalation and he chose to ignore it.
It's like it's been a slap in the face to us, and he gets a slap on the wrist.
Au's defense lawyer, Peter Browdy, admits he was surprised the judge issued the weapons prohibition.
This was a case that didn't involve a weapon, didn't involve a threat of a weapon. He was legally justified to use a certain amount of force. The judge found that he subjectively believed that he could have used the force that he did, but he was wrong and made a mistake.
Au declined to address the court before the sentence was handed down. He still faces charges under the Police Services Act. He remains suspended with pay.
Well, to be fair to the entire process, I'm yet to be briefed on the specifics of the court finding. But when I am, we'll take into considerations what we have as options under the new Community Safety Policing Act and what options I have available to me as chief, and we'll go from there.
The Toronto Police Association released this statement. The TPA is aware of the sentence today of Constable Au and continues to support the officer during this time. There are still several steps in this process, including a possible appeal, internal disciplinary matters, and until those decisions have been made, we have no further comment. The family has filed a civil action against Constable Au and Toronto Police. John Musselman, CTV News in Brampton.
A 5-year-old girl is in hospital after falling from an apartment building in North York. This happened around 8 last night in the area of Victoria Park in Eglinton. Paramedics say the girl fell from a 2nd-story window. She was taken to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Police say it does not appear there is anything criminal in nature in connection with the incident.
A 3-year-old Montreal girl who'd been missing for days has been found alive. Police say Claire Bell was found in the St. Albert area of Ontario. That's about a 2-hour drive from Montreal. Bell was reported missing on Sunday. Police say she was found alone along Highway 417 around 3 o'clock this afternoon. Quebec police charged the girl's mother with child abandonment on Monday. Bell was conscious and talking when she was found. She's been given food and water and has been taken to a hospital to make sure she's okay. A new CAA study is outlining the number of near misses at intersections across Canada.
The study's authors say the report highlights the need to better protect cyclists and pedestrians. CTV's Rahim Ladani reports.
Crossing the street in Toronto isn't always simple.
So I always
wait extra time. I also have a toddler, so that like terrifies me all the time.
I don't even bike on the street because I'm scared that somebody's going to hit me.
It turns out these safety concerns carry across Canada. CAA watched 20 intersections around the country over 7 months using cameras and artificial intelligence. The results? 1 in every 770 pedestrians and 1 in every 500 cyclists were involved in a high or critical risk near miss with a vehicle.
That's almost a cyclist every single day that's coming into an intersection and having a conflict with a vehicle. So I don't know. I would say that that's a pretty scary number.
The majority of close calls involved right-turning vehicles, followed by left-turning vehicles and through vehicles.
There's careless drivers and careless bike riders, so it's equal. I have to keep my eyes open all the time.
The study found if those near misses were actually crashes, there would be an 85% chance of serious injury.
The reality is that people do make mistakes, and a safe systems framework, which is a road safety framework used all over the world, there are mistakes that happen, but there are things that we can look at, either engineering or infrastructure.
CAA is urging municipalities to make intersections safer by creating more dedicated left turn lanes, pedestrian-first signal crossings, and advanced green lights for left-turning vehicles.
And AI is able to tell us in that area there seems to be an issue, then hopefully we can implement a design that will prevent a collision.
Creating a safer commute for all modes of transportation. Raheem Ladani, CTV News.
Still ahead, the federal government says it plans to move quickly to get major projects approved across the country, but there are concerns about the speed at which legislation is moving and what it means for proper oversight. We'll have more on Bill C-5 and the concerns it's raising in minutes.
The Premier will welcome 40 First Nations chiefs to Queen's Park tomorrow, part of the government's ongoing outreach on his controversial Bill 5. Some chiefs have expressed outrage and hurt over the bill that creates special economic zones where some laws can be ignored. The government wants that label for the mineral-rich Ring of Fire, a region it sees as key to Ontario's economic prosperity. But Indigenous leaders feel the rights have been trampled on, and they should have been consulted ahead of time. Doug Ford intends to use tomorrow's meeting to show leaders what's possible.
This is like handing an opportunity on a silver platter to First Nations that by the way, I have treated like gold. But there's going to be a point that you can't just keep coming hat in hand all the time to the government. You got to be able to take care of yourselves. And when you literally have gold mines, nickel mines, every type of critical mineral that the world wants, and you're saying, no, I don't want to touch that. By the way, give me money. Not going to happen.
NDP Deputy Leader Sol Mamakwa released a statement calling the Premier's remarks deeply offensive and racist and said Ford has a fundamental lack of understanding in Ontario's treaty relationship with First Nations.
On the same day, the Prime Ministers of Canada and India shook hands at the G7 summit, comes word of a CSIS report that accuses India of being at the forefront of foreign interference. CTV's Abigail Beeman reports.
Great honor to host you at the G7.
The same day as the meeting with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Canada's spy agency listed India as one of the main perpetrators of foreign interference and espionage against Canada in its newly released annual report. CSIS called links between the government of India and the 2023 murder of Sikh separatist activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar a significant escalation in India's repression efforts against the Khalistan movement and a clear intent to target individuals in North America. It calls on Canada to remain vigilant about continued foreign interference by India in ethnic, religious, and cultural communities, as well as Canada's political system.
As a government, we condemn any interference by foreign actors in Canada. The RCMP, as you're aware, is completing its ongoing investigation, and they will have more to say.
I think it was premature.
This former CSIS intelligence officer says the move yesterday to restore top diplomats in both countries is important, but the timing at the G7 sent mixed signals.
On the one hand, we're taking transnational repression seriously. At the second hand, we're inviting people over, putting them on the red carpet, and making it look as though all's fine and wonderful.
The expectation that India understand the damage they have
have done here in Canada is really important to moving this relationship forward.
The CSIS report also noted the Canadian, American, and British spy agencies agree that never in our combined histories have we faced national security threats overall of such magnitude simultaneously. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
The Prime Minister is traveling to Europe on Sunday for 2 summits next week. Mark Carney is scheduled to attend a gathering of the Canada-European Union in The Hague. The PMO says he'll meet with EU presidents to enhance Canada's relationship across all sectors. Carney will also travel to Brussels for the NATO Leaders Summit. Officials say he will engage with allies to meet evolving threats in a more dangerous and divided world.
There are 2 days to go until the House of Commons breaks for the summer. So the government has set its bill on interprovincial trade and project approvals on a fast track. CTV's Rachel Aiello reports.
The Liberal government is facing pressure from Indigenous groups and MPs, including from within their own party, to slow down trying to pass the Major Projects Bill by Canada Day to allow more time for consultation. Prime Minister Mark Carney's One Canadian Economy Bill, C5, is on track to clear the House of Commons by Friday. With the backing of Conservatives, earlier this week, the Liberals moved to speed up the study of the legislation. Left with a narrow window to scrutinize it, NDP, Green, and Bloc MPs have raised alarm. Even some Liberals are expressing reservations about striking the right balance.
It's an impactful bill, but it's a short bill, and so my hope is that the committee is able to make substantive amendments.
Given the urgency, maybe this is the best we're going to get under the circumstances.
Prompting pushback is a proposal within the legislation to give Cabinet the power to approve natural resource projects, seen by some as undermining obligations to consult Indigenous people. Yesterday, Ontario chiefs came to the Hill to amplify calls for Carney to take more time to consider the consequences.
Canadians ought to be alarmed.
But today, the government stood by the bill, its intentions, and the decision to fast-track it.
This bill enjoys incredibly broad support, and we're pleased to be making progress on it.
Tonight, a committee of MPs will be burning the midnight oil to consider amendments to Bill C5. It will have to pass the House by Friday, and then it'll be off to the Senate, where a pre-study is already underway. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
The war of words between Washington and Tehran is escalating as Donald Trump weighs his options amid the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran. Today, the U.S. president was asked if they would attack Iranian nuclear facilities.
I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before?
As the fighting continues, Iran rejected Trump's demand for an unconditional surrender and has threatened retaliation if the U.S. gets directly involved in the conflict. European foreign ministers are preparing to meet with their Iranian counterpart on Friday to discuss Tehran's nuclear program.
Astronomers have created a dazzling map of a nearby galaxy after observing it for about 50 hours. The so-called Sculptor Galaxy is located approximately 11 million light years away from Earth. This panoramic image was created by scientists who pieced together more than 100 exposures from the European Southern Observatory's large telescope. Researchers say the spiral galaxy is close enough to study its building blocks with incredible detail and big enough that it can be seen as a whole system. Coming up on CTV News, a groundbreaking treatment that can lower the risk of reoccurrence of breast cancer. The new medical therapy next.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, if you travel, you may end up coming home with currency from around the world. But be careful if you hang on to it too long. One woman cashed in 21,000 Mexican pesos, only to find out her bank considered it worthless. All of that story, that's just ahead.
So the active weather today going to contribute to a little bit of relief from the heat tomorrow. 22 is our forecast high for Thursday, feeling like 27 as opposed to 37 today. And then Friday night, summer officially arrives. The summer solstice, 10:41 p.m. Boy, is it going to feel like the season this weekend. We'll take you through the 7-day coming up. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400. from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
When you travel, you may come home with currency from countries you visited, and oftentimes it can end up tucked in a dresser drawer and forgotten about.
But you need to be careful, because if you hang on to some foreign currencies too long, they could become outdated and lose their value. Pat Foran has this consumer alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle. And Nathan, a woman cashed in her Mexican pesos at a bank earlier this year and was happy to exchange it for Canadian funds. But weeks later, she was told the Mexican money was worthless and the bank wanted the Canadian money back.
They're penalizing me for their error, and I think that's very unfair.
Jose Romano of Scarborough has traveled to Mexico many times over the years. She's been saving her leftover Mexican pesos and in March decided to cash it in for Canadian funds. She gave her bank 21,000 Mexican pesos and received just over $1,400 Canadian.
I accepted it, and he gave me the cash, and then I went home, and I completely forgot all about it.
The Mexican peso was revalued by the Bank of Mexico in 1993, and older bills were withdrawn from circulation. Romano says while Scotiabank accepted her Mexican currency, they later contacted her to say the bills were too old and of no value.
They said the pesos are old. I had no idea if the pesos were old. How would I know? They're the bank.
Romano says the bank offered to return the Mexican pesos to her, but she said weeks had passed and she had already spent the money. But she was shocked when the bank debited her account the $1,400.
Without my knowledge or consent, they had taken the money out of my account, the full amount.
When CTV News reached out to Scotiabank, a spokesperson said, if foreign banknotes are returned for some reason, for example, they're no longer in circulation, their account will be debited the Canadian dollar value of the returned foreign banknotes. Romano feels the bank should not have exchanged the Mexican currency if it had no value.
If they hadn't given it to me, I wouldn't have spent it.
After CTV News reached out to Scotiabank on Romano's behalf, she was told she would get a full refund of the $1,400, which was a major relief for her.
I want to thank you so much. I have no words to express my gratitude. I am very, very grateful. Thank you, Mr. Foran. I'm so glad.
And after returning from a trip, it's a good habit to exchange your unused currency back into Canadian funds and do it sooner than later. You never know when foreign bills or coins could be dropped from circulation or lose their value. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, there have been some sunny moments today, some stormy moments, and I think consistently it's been steamy throughout.
Yeah, it's certainly been a hot one, and still that risk of thunderstorms looms.
Well, if you thought it was hot and humid today, this was just the appetizer compared to what's in store this weekend and into the early part of next week. But yes, let's bring it back to the stormy weather. We've had a couple of rounds around the GTA, not all that severe in the end. Here's what it looked like not too long ago in North York. Umbrella weather for sure. We've had widespread wet weather, so some rain, some showers. Not a whole lot in the end of thunder and lightning. Earlier in the afternoon, the west end of the GTA did have some decent storms. Here's what you need in order for a storm to be considered severe. You need strong wind gusts of 90 kilometers per hour. You need a certain size of hail, and then you need heavy downpours of about 50 millimeters or more. There were some rainfall warnings in place from Hamilton over toward Niagara. Those are gradually coming to an end as we see the wet weather start to come to an end through the early part of this evening. We're not totally in the clear. Let me step aside and show you the next round that's going to move in. And this system could bring severe weather to parts of southwestern Ontario. That's where Environment Canada has a severe thunderstorm watch in place. So from Windsor over toward London. But again, those rainfall warnings coming to an end for the GTA. Still some heavy rain expected around Parry Sound and Huntsville as we make our way through the night tonight and into tomorrow. We might pick up an additional maybe 10 millimeters of rain here locally in Toronto. But at this point, it's looking like any only further active weather is going to happen later into the evening. In fact, there's about 1 o'clock in the morning as that cold front swings through. So maybe some nocturnal thunderstorms waking you from your sleep overnight tonight. Just be mindful of that. If you haven't already done so, bring the cushions inside from your patio furniture. There's tomorrow morning, mostly cloudy for us around the GTA tomorrow with the chance of showers really throughout the day. We'll get some late day clearing, and then Friday, chance of a shower as well. Some sun to start certainly, and then perhaps late in the day, showers or thunderstorms as we officially welcome the summer season. Right now, it is 23 degrees in Toronto. It's 21 in Kingston and 27 in Windsor. Still quite muggy, as mentioned, in that part of the province. Overnight tonight, we dropped to a low near 19 degrees, so just a hair cooler than it was overnight last night. Perhaps still uncomfortable for sleeping for many. And then our forecast high for tomorrow, 22. That's it. All of a sudden, we are below seasonal. Don't get used to these daytime highs because into Friday, we're going to start to heat up again. You're really going to notice it on Saturday. And then, boy, oh boy, let's talk about Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of next week. The temperature itself is going to be into the 30s. It used to be that official heat wave criteria was 3 consecutive days of 32 degrees or higher. Environment Canada seems to have loosened that criteria a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and call this a heat wave. 32 on Sunday, 34 on Monday, 33 by Tuesday, and at times it is going to be feeling into the low and mid 40s. So time to start prepare. That's your look at the forecast for now. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, Hot Wheels on the lot. How could stolen cars end up at a dealership? W5 digs deeper into an alleged fraud scheme that led to the arrests of 2 salespeople.
The fear of breast cancer returning is very real among cancer survivors.
But as CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan tells us, a new drug has just been approved that promises to reduce the risk.
Nicole Macronia Powell was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer 2 days before she was supposed to go on vacation in Mexico in 2023. She canceled her plans and began a grueling series of treatments.
So I did 8 rounds of chemotherapy. I did 4 rounds of Perjeta, and once I started my second round of chemotherapy, I started what would become 18 rounds of Herceptin, and shortly after finishing chemotherapy, I had surgery to remove 13 lymph nodes on my left side.
Her cancer is gone now, but the fear of cancer returning is always on her mind.
You always think about it. You hear about the rates of reoccurrence, and it's often metastasized at that point.
That's why the approval of ribociclib, also known as Kisqali, is so important.
When added to standard hormone therapy, Kisqali has been shown to significantly lower the chance of breast cancer recurrence in a broad population of patients with hormone receptor positive, HER2 negative, early stage breast cancer.
And Dr. Kaja Jerzak says that's a significant number of early stage breast cancer patients.
For those diagnosed with this type of disease, up to 1 in 3 women may experience a recurrence within 20 years of initial treatment. And unfortunately, often when the cancer comes back, it returns as metastatic disease, which is usually incurable. So it's really important to try to optimize therapies when we're at that curative state.
Provincial coverage for Kisqali is still being worked out, but Dr. Jerzak says a key benefit is that it's effective in a broad range of patients. Nicole finally did manage to vacation in Puerto Vallarta, and she is grateful to know there's now one more option available for patients like her to keep cancer at bay. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Last night, we showed you a W5 investigation into a man who had his car stolen, only to find the vehicle he purchased from a dealership was already stolen.
Tonight, CTV's John Woodward digs deeper into how a dealership could end up selling stolen vehicles.
Running a car dealership was Chris Olszewski's childhood dream.
It was my purpose as a young boy. I always wanted to be a car dealer.
He achieved that dream, but his business faced major challenges when COVID-19 hit.
All dealers were put in survival mode.
Olszewski said he bought cars anywhere he could just to keep the lights on and his staff employed. But some of those cars were not what they seemed. One of his customers complained their insurance company wouldn't cover this Porsche Cayenne because it had a fake vehicle identification number, or VIN, a sign that it could be a stolen car. Olszewski at first didn't believe it. Then he started to dig.
I started doing more homework and seeing how deep this problem really went.
Olszewski opened his records to W5.
So these are the suspicious ones right here?
Yeah, these are the suspicious ones.
23 cars that were potentially stolen with suspect vehicle identification numbers, together worth more than $2.3 million. And Olszewski says police told him something even stranger about one customer.
Yeah, he's passed away. He's not even alive. We delivered a car to a guy that was not alive.
How is that possible?
Great question.
We tried to reach many of these buyers, many numbers not connected. One's listed contact information was noemail@noemail.com. Their employers had never heard of them.
That never happened. I will confirm like 100 million %.
Two salespeople, Fatty Zito and Harris Bachneck, were arrested by the Toronto police, who accused them of masterminding a fraud scheme to sell stolen cars.
The dealership's own funds were then used to buy the vehicles, which were fraudulently presented as legitimate to unsuspecting buyers.
One company that was listed as selling 6 to the dealership was WikiCar, listed as a salesperson, the same Fatty Zito. We checked out the listed address east of Toronto. There are car companies at that address, but people who worked for those companies told us WikiCar is long gone.
I moved here like 3 years ago. It was no more here.
We reached each of them over the phone. Bachneck and Zito's lawyer said the issues in the paperwork were just mistakes, and they never meant to sell any stolen cars. The salespeople's contention is that they were duped too. So we looked into that, obtaining from multiple sources the Carfax reports the pair are charged with altering, and took them to Carfax itself, which still has them on record. The company says they're identical, not altered, as the police allege. Here's Harris Bachneck.
Had I thought an inkling, just a second, just some weird idea that something was involving stolen vehicles, I'd have never got involved with it. I would have left it. That's not who I am. I was raised better than that.
All this raises a lot of questions about what will happen in this prosecution. Nothing has been proven in court.
How has this all affected you?
It's crippled me. I've lost everything I've ever worked for.
His company is now on the ropes. After the alleged fraud came to light, it couldn't pay back bank loans and taxes and is now in receivership.
You know, I couldn't have been more proud of that company. It was my first store.
Olszewski is apologizing to his staff, his customers, and his family for having this happen on his watch. One customer whose family member bought a stolen car says police told him there were even more people involved.
According to the investigations, there's connection with Service Ontario members.
Service Ontario, the agency that registers cars on behalf of the Ontario government.
CTV's John Woodward reporting. After the break, retirement out of reach. A new poll reveals many Canadians don't think they'll ever be able to retire. The reality check in moments.
Lights were flashing on either end of the street. And so then I looked outside and it seemed like there were just policemen milling about.
Updating our top stories, a man is dead and police are searching for a suspect after a stabbing near Danforth and Coxwell. It happened around 11 last night. Police have identified the victim as 36-year-old Ashkan Pournasir Rudbain. They've also released a photo of a suspect who appears to be wearing a face mask.
The group was believed to be responsible for numerous acts of violence intended to gain control over the towing industry.
A multi-jurisdictional police investigation has led to the arrest of 20 people who are now facing 111 charges. Police say the accused are members of an organized crime group called the Union, associated with acts of violence and intimidation in the tow truck industry. The investigation involving Toronto, Durham, York, and the OPP.
It's very hard. I don't think it's fair because I lost my child. And for him to get 12-month probation, that's not enough, not even 1 day in jail.
And the family of a 19-year-old Brampton man who died after being assaulted by a Toronto police officer says the justice system has failed them. The family of Chad Facey spoke out after Calvin Au was handed a sentence of probation and anger management counseling. Facey and the off-duty officer met in a Brampton park where Facey sold a fake Apple Watch to Au's friend. The pair chased Facey down, tackled him, and got the money back. But Facey died later that night from a brain bleed. The judge said she was unable to say for certain that the assault directly contributed to Facey's death.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
Canadian stocks moved up today, closing in on last week's record high. B&M Bloomberg's Andrew Bell brings us the latest in business.
Hello there. Toronto's benchmark stock index edged higher today, leaving it only slightly down from that record high close posted on Tuesday of last week. Canadian stocks are up almost 7.5% this year, outpacing a gain of less than 2% for the US market. One winner in Toronto today was the natural gas processor Keyera. Its stock jumped almost 6% as investors welcomed the company's plan to buy the Canadian natural gas liquids business of Texas-based Plains All American, plus some US assets, for just over $5 billion. BMO upgraded Keyera shares to buy, calling the purchase a, quote, scale-changing deal. The Canadian dollar traded at 73.01 US cents, down almost 1/4 cent. West Texas Intermediate oil was at $73.50 US a barrel, up 23 cents. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select oil has it at $61.25, up 59 cents. And the TSX ended at 26,559.85, up just over 18 points. Those are your business headlines. I'm Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
A new survey finds the majority of Canadians who haven't yet retired don't believe they will ever be able to. The Canadian Retirement Survey by Abacus Data and Healthcare of Ontario Pension Plan found 59% believe they will never be in a financial position to retire, while 66% believe they'll need to continue working even if they do retire. 49% said they had not set aside any money for retirement in the past year, while 39% say they've never saved for retirement.
In sports, the Toronto Blue Jays going for the series win against Arizona after a wild finish at Rogers Centre last night.
Squared up. Swing and a high drive. Right field. Way back. The Blue Jays win the game.
Addison Barger's ninth inning homer gave the Jays a 5-4 victory. Moments earlier, Bo Bichette hit one out to tie the game. It was Toronto's 22nd comeback win of the season, ending a 3-game losing streak. Eric Lauer starts for the Jays this evening in Game 2 of the series.
A tough angle. She gets the shot away. Ambrose resettles. Poulet on the one touch. Scored down for Canada's captain. Marie-Philippe Poulet allows Canada to take the lead.
One of the country's best hockey players is being honored on the international stage. Marie-Philippe Poulet is the IIHF's Female Player of the Year. The four-time Olympian has made a habit of scoring key goals. They include the game winner in Canada's past 3 gold medal championships at the Winter Games. The Montreal Victoire captain is the second Canadian to earn the recognition, following Natalie Spooner's win last year. Just ahead, the rise of women's pro sports is creating opportunities for young female athletes, but there are calls for more support. We check out the ESPNW Summit, where leaders in sports and business unite.
From the Northern Super League to the PWHL to the WNBA, no shortage of professional options for top-tier female athletes these days.
A conference held in the city aimed to help break down barriers for girls and women looking to get into and stay in sports. CTV's Jessica Smith has the story.
Women's sports have seen a surge in support from the launch of the PWHL to the much-anticipated arrival of the WNBA's expansion into Canada with the Toronto Tempo. But there is more room to grow.
It's still such an emerging market, particularly in Canada, but we've seen incredible momentum.
The third annual ESPNW Summit Canada brought people from across the country to help continue the conversation to elevate women and girls in all levels of sport.
Women's sport is an ecosystem, and I think from the grassroots all the way up to professional, it's important to help foster that.
Guest speakers from Olympic athletes to broadcasters and business owners share their stories and how we can all continue to help level the playing field.
We have to keep it going because we still need that support. We still need the education. We still need the financial support. We still need the fans, and we still need to grow it at the grassroots level. So conversations like this, days like this, are so critically important.
With a major focus on growing support for young athletes.
The pro teams are amazing, and it took so long to get those pro teams here, but we also need to remember the bottom levels and how that needs to grow fans, leaders of the future.
For those who weren't able to attend the summit today, you can visit their website, espnwsummitcanada.ca, to watch each of the guest speakers. Jessica Smith, CTV News.
All right, we know hot weather is on the way, but tonight there's some concern.
We had some storms, now maybe the potential for more.
But probably later on, which is great. In fact, many are going to enjoy a beautiful sunset tonight. Here's one look at the satellite and radar. The storms just pushing into extreme southwest Ontario are the ones that we're concerned about a little later on. There's tomorrow's high. A reminder, we have some very hot weather on the way. Let me show you one more look at the 7-day forecast. Biggest concern time frame is from Sunday through to about the middle part of next week. We're going to keep an eye on this one. Michelle and Nathan.
It is heating up. Thank you so much. And that's it for us. But you can join Omar Sajanina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Andrea Case with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a great night.